without bail. They are charged with first-degree murder, along with a long list of other charges. Police revealed new details about the case Monday, including the relationship between the victim and suspects. They say 70-year-old Kenneth Coyle met Stacy Mendoza at a Hanford restaurant where she was a waitress. They became friends, but in recent weeks, Mendoza began to gain access to his personal financial information.
And we think she manipulated that relationship to gain his trust and defraud him of money.
Police believe he died of blunt force trauma and suffocation. On the 7th or 8th, police say the Mendozas, their 3 children with them, drove a U-Haul to rural Madera County where they burned Coyle's body.
We know the children were taken to when the body was burned and watched the body burn.
My family and I want to express our sincere appreciation to all of you for attending a celebration of life for a person most of you never met. But you accept the fact that a lost soul who gave to all was taken from this life in such a horrific manner. Ken wanted desperately to be in heaven and incessantly asked me why other people younger than he was were released from this life. Ken had a difficult time meeting people and was often rejected. He suffered from depression, a family curse that I share. He and I also share the fact that we are hoarders, something many of you in the Assistance League know only too well. Kenneth Lawrence Coyle was born in Brooklyn, New York, as were all of our siblings. He needed eye surgery in his first year. You can imagine this little tyke in diapers with glasses on, larger than he was. He is our youngest member of our family, 9 years younger than I, dying at 68. His early life was uneventful, other than the time I dropped him as an infant and never told my mother. Mom, I did. A fond memory was when Ken was about 5 and we were on vacation in Canadensis, Pennsylvania. Ken came running into the cabin, crying his eyes out because he had just gotten stung by a bee. Soon afterwards, my mother found him changing his clothes. When asked why he was putting on a complete new outfit, he replied, so the bees won't recognize me. Ken joined the Air Force and was sent to Vietnam and Thailand. His job was to process the surveillance pictures that the pilots took and were returning from the field. Prior to his exit from the service, the Air Force trained Ken in water treatment. If you are familiar with Mike Rowe's show entitled Dirty Jobs, well, the water treatment specialist had to learn from the ground up, literally working in sewage treatment plants. Yes, right in the middle of the sewage. Ken was proud to wear a t-shirt with Muffin Monster on it, indicating the type of job he had, and he was very proud of it. Ken was sent to the Lemoore Naval Station, where he graduated from sewage to clean water. He worked for 43 years as an environmental treatment specialist. That explains why he lived in Hanford, California. Ken was different and hard for some people to accept. He had a savant-type ability, think Rain Man, when it came to dates and numbers. If you gave him your birth date, he could in seconds tell you the day of the week you were born on. Most phone calls from him recounted how many years someone was dead, including the weeks and the days. This was often frustrating to the listener. He kept track of everyone's birth, death, even for people he worked with. Ken cherished his nieces and nephews. When they were younger, Ken would take them out for ice cream with their friends, or a trek to a toy store to, quote, buy anything that they wanted, or to treat them to their first Shirley Temple. Ken's best quality was helping people and giving money where he saw a need, not just pennies. Family with no coats, he would buy a family in the wintertime a complete set of clothing and a washer and a dryer for a young couple who needed it. He rode around town with a box full of gift cards to In-N-Out Burger to give out to people he thought needed a good meal. Ken was alone in retirement by his choice. He spent most days reading, listening to books on tape, and watching TV if he wasn't doing a little gambling at the local Indian casino. He ate many of his meals at local restaurants, giving big tips to those waitresses who would banter back and forth with him. He learned of their lives and how poor they said that they were, and would give them money for any needs that they had. Part of it was the satisfaction that he derived from helping people, and part because he felt he had a friend. This activity led to the untimely death of Ken. Due to his great generosity, unscrupulous individuals befriended Ken, taking great advantage of him. These awful people thought that there was a fortune to be had. There was not. Ken would give his last dollar to someone who needed it more than himself. Ken's great fortune was his generosity and how he treated his fellow man. That's his legacy, that's his fortune. The lessons of this story, if there are any: don't reject someone who seems different from yourself. Be kind and generous to all. And if you know of someone by themselves, try to befriend them.
This is Live at 11 on ABC 30 Action News.
A woman is in police custody after detectives believe she helped a couple in the murder of a Hanford man. Police arrested 43-year-old April Striggles. She's accused of aiding Jose and Stacy Mendoza in the crime. Last week, the Mendozas pleaded not guilty to charges of beating, torturing, and killing Kenneth Coyle at his home. Hanford police say Striggles offered authorities details to her involvement in trying to cover up the crime scene at Coyle's house. Striggles is booked into the King County Jail on a no-bail warrant.
The third person they've deemed as an accessory after the fact. She was paid $2,000 to help clean up the mess that they had in the trailer, in the mobile home. And she did a very poor job because she had bleach all over the place and didn't do much of anything as far as I could see, because the house was a disaster from one end of the mobile home to the other.
On the 14th, when I spoke to them, they knew he was already dead?
No, they knew that something had been going on because there was blood in the mobile home.
Right.
But there was no body there.
So what I don't understand is, how did they, in the 2 days, you said that they were tracking them, but there wasn't really much time to track
They
them.
were tracking them over a period of 3 or 4 days after that.
But didn't they arrest them?
They arrested them on the, let's see, they found Ken's body on the 13th. And the people took them to the scene.
Yeah.
Took the police to the scene where his body was. And so they arrested them, like the day before, like on the 12th.
Hanford police say the couple brought Kenneth Coyle's body all the way out here to this empty canal in Madera County. They say they dumped the body along with some belongings and burned the body in hopes that it would blend in and sort of look like trash that people dumped along the side of the road.
What he told me at the time, the captain, he said they tracked Kenny's cell phone to Fresno. They found his wallet and cell phone along with the 14-year-old. Then they were using his wallet and cell phone to get into bank accounts. Then they tracked the suspect's cell phone. And then they realized they got stuck in traffic on the 405, which is why he missed his flight, which is why they were at that Denny's. The man was not gone. And that's where they arrested them, was outside the Denny's by LAX.
They restrained him on a bed and beat him to get access to his bank account information, passwords, and other account information.
Coyle was suffocated. The couple returned days later with a moving truck, loaded Coyle's body and belongings, and drove more than 60 miles to this remote, empty canal in eastern Madera County.
Apparently, she started working on him 3 years ago. 3 years ago?
3 years ago?
We just met a year ago.
No, 3 years ago. And
She was a waitress at what restaurant?
I don't know. But 3 years ago they met, and he felt sorry for her because she was in need, and he told me 2 children, and he just told me that he met this lady, and
So you knew about her. He had talked
I knew
about
that
her.
there was a woman involved in his life, but I didn't know to what extent. And he was helping her out.
So based on what you've been able to put back together with his finances, it looked like she was trying to wring him dry.
Oh, absolutely. And apparently Ken was pretty much financing her life for 3 years. They obviously planned just about every second of it. They had everything laid out, and you know, they went to the person who was the manager of the community, and tried to get into Ken's house, and giving her the story that he was in a California hospital, and he needed some things, and the big mistake was that the lady gave the manager her phone number, her cell phone number, and that's how they caught him.
Mm-hmm.
But
and you're giving high marks to her, right?
Yeah.
For tipping off the cops.
Oh, absolutely. She was just pivotal in that whole thing. She just, if it wasn't for her, we'd be wondering for years whatever happened to Ken.
And you've met her since?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's a lovely person.
And she knew Ken?
Yeah. She knew him so well that, and Ken trusted her so much that he told her whenever he went to the doctors in Fresno, which was about 60 miles away, and he thought he'd be gone for a while, he told her when he was going and when he'd be back. And he gave her his grant deed to the mobile home, and for her to keep safe for him. And
so even if they wanted to steal that, they never would have gotten it because she had it.
Right, and they didn't know that. Yeah.
I think Ken had a very hard life. Barbara said that. And I don't think I realized how hard it was. I remember when we talked, it was always, you never wanted to talk to Ken too long because Ken was, I wouldn't say rambled, what would you say?
No,
rambled, yeah. But the funny thing is that, as I was saying, the last phone call we had, which was about maybe a week to 10 days, I don't know, before he died, killed, I don't want to say died. It was a really good conversation. It was a completely normal conversation, and it was one of the first ones I've had with him in many, many years. Occasionally there were, because he had highs and lows in his emotional life, but this was so good, and he was talking about being in Thailand and how he went into the Air Force as a puny kid, and then we were talking about Trump, and I assumed he was a Democrat, but I didn't know for sure, but he was as virulent, is that the right word, against Trump as I am, and it was we had this kind of a nice back and forth about, you know, how bad Trump is, and, you know, what's he doing to this country, and you know, as we left, it was like, oh, we hope things get better, kind of thing. But he just had such a hard life. I mean, it really is, you know, a square peg. And it was a few weeks before he died, maybe a few months, that I said to Barbara, do you remember the call? And I mentioned Asperger's for the first time. I mean, it's kind of crazy that, you know, we're all educated people, and it never dawned on me that Ken probably had Asperger's. And a few months before he was killed, I spoke to Barbara, and I said, you know, Barbara, I think Ken might have Asperger's, and she said she agreed with me, and it sort of everything made sense. Up to that time, it was, you know, it was difficult to be as understanding of Ken as, in hindsight, if I'd realized what it was, and so I think that's a lot of pain.